Hey guys, it's Accesson HD here. Welcome back to the second channel where today we are starting yet another F1 2019 Grand Prix with McLaren Renault. New beginning. The last two career mode series that I've done haven't been great. 10 episodes and then I've lost my motivation on them. But now we have a fresh start again with McLaren alongside Carlos Sainz.
It should be all set up on the network, but let the guys know if it isn't. From there, you can access all the data you need to help us direct development of the car. Get yourself settled, and then head out to practice when you're ready. I'll catch up with you later, okay?
Introducing us
Welcome to your new team. McLaren are one of the
place
most
is
successful teams in the sport, and they've reinvented themselves over the past few years. They demand excellence from all areas of their organisation, and they'll expect you to integrate yourself and get up to speed from the first race.
That's one thing I need to be doing, or want to be doing as well, is those faster sounds with the people there. I think it's gonna be quite fun if I can keep that one up, or then it's just annoying. Either way, FP1 at Australia. The whole thing about the thing about this whole weekend has been I did not play this game for like over a month before this, so my driving in the first race wasn't great, but I think I'm gonna get used to it quite fast for the future Grand Prix. Then also one thing I didn't mention earlier, we're doing one-shot qualifying and 25% race, so that's quite short, but we might add a bit of length to that later if I have the motivation to.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. Watching some of the cars attack the high-speed corners, it occurred to me that this might be one of the more awkward tracks to prepare a car for. Do you go for top speed over grip, or do you look to maximise performance in all the corners?
Drivers are going to need a nicely balanced car to be fast here. They'll need to get the most out of the medium and high-speed corners, which will push them to run more downforce. But in turn, this slows the car down on the straights. It's a tricky balancing act.
So this was actually the moment I realized that I even had set it to one-shot qualifying, so it was a bit of a shock and no flashback, so this was a very cautious first chicane, and I was a little stressed all the way because one-shot qualifying means one mistake to a corner and you are out from good positions, and with a McLaren you're expected to get the top 10 Q3 performances and then fight for consistent points in the race. Australia, though, I don't think is one of the best circuits for this track, with not so good straight line speed with the McLaren car, even though it's improved. I think it's still one of the worst engines on the grid. So when we get to Bahrain or China, maybe it'd be better, because this is a circuit that is really difficult to overtake if you get a bad qualifying. And we are currently 11th as we go through that high speed chicane, and into the third sector we will go. And you can clearly see the lack of driving experience recently kicks in, and it's not a great corner here. We don't get the best of a line, and then another mistake into this corner right there, going wide and on the grass a little bit, run off the racing line for the final corner, and we are currently 15th, which is nowhere near where we want to be, dropping to 16th as well as Sebastian Vettel gets pole position, and we are in 16th place, so a lot of work to do for the Australian Grand Prix.
Bad luck in qualifying, that's not exactly ideal. But there's no points for Saturday. Keep a cool head and make up for it in the race.
And purchasing our first upgrades as well, one to powertrain, one to the chassis, and one to the aerodynamics ahead of the Australian Grand Prix.
New drivers, new cars, it's a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that plays host to round 1 of a 21 race championship that takes us from here in Australia across the globe, and the eventual season finale at the Yas Island circuit in Abu Dhabi. The Melbourne circuit is certainly one that needs to be taken seriously. Its combination of slippery surfaces and difficult corners make it a tricky track when it comes to overtakes. Drivers find it hard to pass and will need to take full advantage of those DRS zones if they want to have any hope of breaking through. We have plenty of changes to the sport this year with tweaks to the regulations, a fresh-looking spread of tyre compounds, and of course some changes to the roster of car manufacturers. It's goodbye to Sauber and hello once again to the classic name of Alfa Romeo in Formula One. It's also goodbye to Force India. They've been rebranded as Racing Point. Joining me to take you through all the action of the 2019 Formula One season is Anthony Davidson. And it's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Crofty. Always happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to getting underway. Last year was Mercedes' 5th Constructors' title in a row, although for the first half of the season it was absolutely neck and neck with the Ferraris. Hopefully this year we can see the chasing pack take that final step, as I'd love to see a championship contest all the way up to the final race in Abu Dhabi. Another story to keep an eye on is the performance of Red Bull, who have switched to the Honda power unit this year. What that will mean for both their performance and reliability remains to be seen.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas and Albon, Sainz, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg and Roman Grosjean, Ricciardo, Kvyat, Antonio Giovinazzi, the Flying Finn, Stroll, Perez, Pierre Gasly and George Russell. Magnussen, they've taken a grid penalty and Robert Kubica takes the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Keep your eyes open on the run to turn 1 and keep it clean. We want to come out in one piece.
For the Australian Grand Prix, 15 laps ahead of us from 14th on the grid because of some grid penalties, and we are underway, and it's a very good start for us, already ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi and up into 13th place. We're gonna take it quite cautious into turn 1. Don't want to make ruin anyone's race just yet. And Stroll on our left hand side. I think we're gonna keep clear of the Racing Point as we go towards turn 3. Again, taking it quite cautious, but we can squeeze out Stroll and get 13th. Kvyat is on our way there at the next corner, but he runs a little bit wide, and we see our chances immediately into this next chicane down the inside of the Russian and up into 12th place. So 2 moves made in the first half of the first lap, and only 2 positions behind points, and that's where we want to be. That's our target for this race, to get that points finish. That's all I want from this race. Race replay. Vettel started from pole ahead of Hamilton in 2nd place. As you can see there, Vettel got a good start and comfortably ahead of Hamilton, and then Leclerc in 3rd place. But after lap 1, still 12th, hunting down Daniel Ricciardo, and as we all know, overtaking around Melbourne is very, very difficult, so we need Ricciardo to do a slight error, like a lockup or something, and then we also need to be very aware of the situation and notice when we can go for moves and when don't, because it needs to be a risk. We are lap 4, and as we can hear, our teammate Sainz is doing really well right now, up in 7th place. And lap number 5, this is where I really need to try and get past any safe way I can, and that's why we're gonna go for a huge lunge. Thankfully, Ricciardo does lock up, and that does help us to take the position, slow the car down in 1st gear as well, to avoid going too deep into that corner. But that was a risky move, and if Ricciardo didn't lock up, it might have been a different situation, but thankfully he did. We are now 11th, and we are now joining a train of Hülkenberg, Raikkonen and Grosjean from P8 to P10, and then ourselves 11th. And already knocking on the door of the points finishes. We got yellow flags on the next DRS straight, and a red car, a Ferrari car, parks to the right hand side. It will be the pole sitter Sebastian Vettel out of the Australian Grand Prix, who led until this point, I think. So very unfortunate for the German, but we are now points, so that's our luck. Not so much for Vettel. We go for a lunge on Grosjean, and Grosjean squeezes us to the crossway on the outside for the final corner. Grosjean tries to hang on the inside, but we make the move stick, around the outside of the final corner. And I wasn't actually planned to go for this move, but I broke a little bit too late. And if I think I would have hit the rear of Grosjean, so that's why I kind of needed to, you know, change to the left hand side, and then it was a bit of an accident that I even went for the overtake there, but I got it done anyway. P8 now, Räikkönen comes into the pits, and that's why we need to push really hard to try and get an overcut on Räikkönen, because this is the lap we want to pit. And Hülkenberg just ahead of us, and we got DRS, rich mix and overtake mode. Hülkenberg hasn't got DRS, and that's why we're gonna try and make a move around the left hand side of the Renault as he places his car to the right hand side, and we get past around the outside up into P5 at this point. Of course we need to make our pit stop, and it's gonna be interesting now to see, because Kimi was right ahead of us, and Kimi's got quite a bit of a clean air to push on, but we also had quite a good in lap, and that's why I feel like with a good pit stop we might be able to overcut Kimi. We'll see how the pit stop goes first, and then we'll see where Kimi is after all of this. Into a set of mediums obviously, and this will be another 7 laps towards the end of the first race of the season, and we'll stick it on the older broadcast mode, and we can see Kimi Räikkönen will come on the right hand side of your screen, and it will be really close. Räikkönen tries to switch back, but we keep the position of I think P8, I'm quite sure, I'm not even sure, P8, P7, something on those lines, we will see shortly. P8, that is. Räikkönen pressurizing us already. It's not gonna be easy towards the end of the race. The Alfa Romeo has been looking really strong around this circuit. Lap number 9, our teammate Carlos Sainz, who's been running incredibly well so far, now makes a pit stop, and he's miles ahead of us, so he will keep clear of us. We have no hope in overtaking our teammate unless he makes some kind of issue or gets some kind of mechanical problem in his car. Räikkönen tries to go around the outside of the final corner. The two Finns are going for this. Räikkönen keeps the car on the inside. We have a better line, but we hit the rear of Räikkönen, and I think we actually got a minor front wing damage from that as well. And Räikkönen's also got DRS. Hülkenberg coming out the pits slows down Räikkönen, compromises his line, and we're trying to go around the outside again. Contact made. Räikkönen didn't see us there, and we are now on the inside of Räikkönen. Hülkenberg too far ahead and places his car well. We are up into 8th place ahead of Räikkönen, behind Nico Hülkenberg, who is on the hards for some reason, so we should be able to have a go at Hülkenberg very shortly as well. Here's a replay of our overtake on Räikkönen. It's quite a long train, I think a 7-car train forming up as we go down the inside of Hülkenberg into the same corner that we made a move on the first lap as well, and we are now 7th place. That will be really good. I will be really satisfied with a P7 from the Australian Grand Prix. We're lap number 10, 5 full laps to go, but we'll skip to lap number 15. Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix and takes the championship lead. Leclerc currently ahead of us in 6th, but Carlos Sainz, our teammate, will get 5th place and beat one of the Ferraris, or both of the Ferraris actually, because Vettel retired, and he gets a really good points finish. So I think McLaren will end up being 3rd or even 2nd, maybe at least 3rd in the constructors standings, and we come home in 7th. Perez currently 8th, so he's got past Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen will still finish on points, so but quite a bit of a gap between the two of us and the rest of the pack, but we come home in a very good P7. I'm happy with that.
Yes, another historic win under their belts. Well done to the team at Mercedes. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
So thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like on it and subscribe from below if you haven't already done so. and we will see you next time with the Bahrain Grand Prix. Until then, take care and peace.